One of the defense industry products whose name we have heard almost the most recently is the Iron Dome. There is a lot of praise and criticism for this close-range air defense system, which Israel describes to the whole world as, "There is no better." Now come, let's go a little deeper into the matter and take a closer look at the Iron Dome. Let's also look for an answer to the question of whether it is a myth or an exaggeration. On July 12, 2006, Israel woke up to an ordinary day. The first news came from the northern border around 9 o'clock, while the first light of the morning was just rising. Lebanon attacked southern Israel with air and missiles, while targeting armored military vehicles, and captured some security posts in a short time. Israel, which had wiped out all the forces around it militarily until that day, was clearly damaged for the first time. Israel, accustomed to a war lasting 6 days or short-term shots from the opposite side, as in 1967, had to fight Hezbollah for a full 34 days in 2006. The war in Lebanon, in which a large number of women and children died, is no different from today in this aspect. However, there is a similar scenario for the Israeli side, because Israel could not prevent dozens of its soldiers from dying in the wars in 2006, and such a high death toll at that time was a very, very big crisis for Tel Aviv. In any case, they could not continue this crisis any longer. After 34 days, they signed a ceasefire in such a way that they had suffered serious losses on their behalf and killed dozens of innocents on the other side. During the war in 2006, Israel clearly realized a fact. It was unlikely with the means at its disposal to stop rockets or missiles fired towards it from settlements established in fairly small areas right next to it, because the existing systems were mainly produced for short, medium, and long range. As a matter of fact, it was almost impossible for him to produce an effect from very short distances. Sderot, one of the settlements we hear the most about in Israel these days, was an area that was often mentioned in the news at that time. One of the most famous features was the concrete blocks that covered even the bus stops, because this region was too close to Gaza to cause discomfort. During the war in 2006, rockets falling on different parts of Israel, especially Sderot, brought not only destruction or deaths. From a psychological point of view, he also took the superiority away from Israel, because the sirens going off, the stopped lives, the escaped shelters also meant a huge psychological collapse for the Israelis, who were so obsessed with feeling safe. One of the most important issues that Israel has been thinking about since 2006 has been to prevent this situation. Well, how was he going to do it? Despite all kinds of isolation, embargoes, strong intelligence, whether it was Hamas, Hezbollah, or others, he had access to explosives, weapons, missiles, and rockets that could somehow cause trouble for Israel. The managers of Rafael, one of the leading defense industry companies in the country, thought this. The rockets were almost always coming from the same point, and they were all following a trajectory that first accelerated upward and then glided towards the target. Moreover, they were physically very close to the points where the missiles were fired. If they could detect it as soon as the missile was fired, they could have taken quick action and neutralized the rocket, no matter what element it came from in Hamas, Hezbollah, or the region. The sleeves have been rolled up for this plan, which looks pretty good on paper. But let's share a brief information at this point. When we say that the sleeves are rolled up, let it not be perceived as if Israel is not producing anything else in this field until that day. It is in the mid-1980s that Israel began working to protect itself against ballistic missiles. Of course, as you can imagine, the United States has the main role in this business. A memorandum of understanding is being signed with the United States, and work has begun. In this process, the first anti-missile system is being built, with the United States taking over 80% of the cost. After that, this system is being gradually developed, and the United States provides full support at every stage. As you can see, Israel is not empty-handed. However, the most important problem is that the hand and the opposite problem cannot be completely solved. You cannot see, lock, and destroy cheap rockets sent from a very, very close distance to you, from a very low altitude, with very low radar visibility, in your air defense systems worth hundreds of millions. The issue of the emergence of the Iron Dome is exactly this problem. The Iron Dome is a system located at the bottom of Israel's air defense umbrella. After more than 4,000 rockets were fired from southern Lebanon to northern Israel during the war in 2006, and the devastating consequences of this development began by the Rafael company. Let's say that the United States also provides both technological and economic support for the Iron Dome. Let's even remind that the US side signed an agreement for the production of this system on its own territory in 2020, ordered 2 batteries from the system, and continue. Let's first try to explain the Iron Dome in its most general form. The system basically consists of 3 main components: radar, command and control center, and missile launch system. Now let's take a closer look at these components. Let's take the radar first. A target detection and tracking radar with highly advanced sensors is being used on the Iron Dome. This radar has a large number of active and passive sensors. Its main task is to detect, classify, and track very quickly every object fired in the area it is monitoring. With this advanced radar, Israel provides detection of incoming rockets and projectiles, calculates their trajectories, and please pay attention here, clarifies their estimated point of impact. It is not limited to this. It also finds the position where the rocket it detects was fired. Let's go over the part so far. We have a very advanced radar. When Hamas or Hezbollah fires a rocket, the system first detects the place where it was fired. It understands what is being fired, follows it moment by moment, quickly detects its likely trajectory, and can finally tell where it will hit. It's quite advantageous, isn't it? We talked about the 3 main components and told about the radar. Now let's come to the issue of how the target was destroyed. We have a lot of information from the radar about the threat fired by the other side. When the Iron Dome detects a threat, it fires the Tamir missile located on it at the same time. The missile follows the route transmitted from the self-command and control system until it approaches the target. When it approaches the target, it activates its own seeker header. That is, it makes the last move by seeing the threat, and thus the risk of missing is almost eliminated. And then it hits the target rocket and destroys it. According to the open source information we have, the Iron Dome can detect and track up to 1,100 aerial targets at the same time. But let's not forget that detecting something, even tracking it, and being able to hit it are quite different from each other. We will come to this point in detail in a moment. Let's continue to get to know the system for now. Another element that we count among the 3 main components is the command and control system. In fact, this is the part that we can call the brain of the whole process. We are talking about the main player of both the radar and the missile launch issue. The system processes the data obtained by the radar very quickly and in detail. Then he gives the command, "You can shoot now," to the missile launch unit. In this process, the tracking and control of the missile is also carried out from this system. The issue of determining the place where the rocket, which we have just stressed by pressing on it, and which is a portent of the Iron Dome, will probably hit, is also being done by the command and control system. We need to open a very critical bracket here. After calculating everything, the Iron Dome analyzes the place where the missile will fall and immediately fires the repair missile if there is a critical facility, a civilian settlement, or any other important issue in the area it determines. As soon as he realizes that the area where the rocket will fall will be an empty or relatively insignificant place, he does not go after it. That is, he does not fire any counter missiles. Considering that this whole process is controlled by highly advanced active and passive sensors, radar, and artificial intelligence, without any human intervention, we understand more clearly why the Iron Dome is one of the best to date. Now we come to the missile. He made the radar detection. The command and control room completed all its calculations. It was decided to hit the incoming threat. The name of the missile that the system fires automatically is Tamir. It can reach speeds more than twice the speed of sound. Do you remember those interesting images in the sky when the Iron Dome was working? Right? The main role there is the repair of missiles. They are approaching a large number of successive rockets, decapitating them by shooting them down. At this point, one of the most talked about details about the repair missiles is the engines they carry. There are not many details about this engine in open sources, but as far as I can see from the videos, they have very high power and incredible maneuverability until the last moment. These missiles, which have an active seeker radar on their heads, personally see the threat with their own eyes before they hit and make the final decision according to them. The maximum range of the repair based on open source data is 70 kilometers. It is estimated that it is. We are coming to that famous question on everyone's mind. If a missile with an 11-kilogram warhead on it misses the target or the rocket, it is locked to falls on its own without the need for a missile. What does the airborne repair do? Let's answer it right now. Tamir aborts the mission in such a situation and self-destructs. In other words, it is not possible for him to fall anywhere, go and hit somewhere else, If there is no technical error, and is there no shortage of Iron Dome? Is it really an impossible system to overcome? We will answer this question, but let's refresh our memories quickly. Let's open a bracket about October 7th first, on the day when Israel said, "Nothing will ever be the same again." In that first 24 hours, Hamas fired about 5,000 rockets towards Israel. If we take into account the following days, more than 8,000 rockets set off towards Israeli territory.